All right, let's hope.
Oh, that's a good picture, almost.
Yeah, well, I don't know what's going on there. I really don't.
Yeah.
I think we're on. Nobody's watching, but I think we're on.
Oh, yeah, zero, huh?
So let's
Well,
just
you know
hold
what we
on for a
figured
second.
out? We figured out a great way to, if we ever feel we have
Yeah, we
too
can
big an
just.
audience, to drop it out, right?
Let's see what's happening. It says 12 watching, but here it says zero.
I got zero on my end too.
All right, let's just see the
I
comment
wonder.
section.
Well, you know what? I wonder. See, I don't know about that. Would the number necessarily come back when you reboot? I mean, in other words,
I don't
would
know
there have to
about
be?
that.
I'm saying no, no. What I meant was they're in. There's one. So somebody. I mean, I'm wondering if that one also shut down and walked away.
Well, now it says on my phone it says we have
Two.
3 people watching.
I got
It's
two. Yeah,
catch
they're
up with
coming.
itself. But I don't know, Dave. Usually, I have an upload speed of at least 40,
And
and it went to 1.5 again. And you know what? That thing was starting the computer. I did shut the computer down.
and
I
what's it?
haven't
What's
been
it
doing
at?
that. So
What's it? What's it at now, Brian?
I'll check.
Yeah, that's weird. And I'm trying to think what would you know.
I don't know what's doing that.
I mean, you don't secretly have 100 people using your Wi-Fi, right?
I hope not, Dave.
I mean,
I'll
no,
let you guys see it if you want. Let me see.
I'm joking, but I mean that has happened. Not you. I mean, you wouldn't.
Yeah, I know.
But people who don't have it password protected, and believe it or not, there are some that don't do that.
My download speed's fine, and
Right.
it's usually a little bit faster with the
Right.
with
What's
the
up?
Safari, but my upload speed, oh, that's shitty. That should be like 30 something.
And I don't see. Where do you see? I don't even see your number coming up on my end.
It's
Oh,
there.
there it
It's
is. I see
right
it.
there. That's
I got it. I got it.
terrible. That is terrible. Still having issues. Yeah, I'm having issues.
Now, let me ask you a question, Brian. And this is something I never thought about. Okay. What about if you, what do, like, I hear you perfectly, right?
Yes.
And you hear me. Of course, we're connected a different way. If you took the picture out, I'm not saying to do that. I mean, because the upload and download speeds only really deal with the visual. Well, no, that's not true. But you're not downloading anything. You're not uploading anything other than you're uploading this picture.
Right, but I mean, there's video going on, but this computer and what I'm paying for, I should be
I understand that.
resolution something. You know what? I
Okay.
feel like I got to start my computer again. I mean, it's
Well,
just
let me ask you this, Brian, too, as we try to troubleshoot. It's fun to do this because I mean it happens to me too on my end. Um, I know that you have the four hamsters running around the circle that powers your system. Do you think if you got four more, if you had eight of them running around, it would be better than just the
you know
four?
what? I had to look at the activity
I love when I
monitor.
make fun of this, and you're so serious about it because you're really. I mean, you're worried about Brian. You can only be worried about what you could be worried about. Did you cause this? The answer is no, you did not. So, ergo, if you did not cause it, now suddenly your picture cleared up. You're
Did.
not. Nope. Just for a second.
Well, I'm going to look on my phone and see what's going on here.
In the interim, as we pass the time,
That's Hal Sparks. I don't know what he's doing on mine.
I,
See,
for anybody who's waiting to get back up, another figure from the early Trump years, Stormy Daniels, is back in the news. Uh, she was testifying this week against Michael Avenatti,
yeah, he
who
was
was,
he
and he is
actually
he
questioned
turned
her.
out, and he actually is defending himself, which they always say only a fool would defend himself, and he actually defended himself in another case and lost, similar to this. But it's interesting how that was only a few years ago, right? And there was a point. I mean, can you imagine 15 years ago if a presidential candidate? I'm just, what do they call it here, spitballing or whatever? Can you imagine anybody out there? Imagine that. Well, let's be safe. Let's say 20 years ago, that if a candidate running for president of the United States was found having sexual relations and then paying off the person at the time that his wife had just delivered a baby and be president. Now, I really don't think, ladies and gentlemen, that speaks of Trump's value. What I think it does speaks of how much America, or at least a large portion of America, has changed. Which then, of course, gets to the interesting question: could JFK, could Dwight Eisenhower, could Franklin Delano Roosevelt, all of whom had, well, Kennedy had many mistresses, Eisenhower had one, and FDR had a few, but basically one. Could they be president? Could they have won? And
now that same like speed got faster, and now it's getting. That should be fine now.
Yeah. Well, let's run it then.
Because I'm close to 40.
Now, no, I see where you are.
I'm close to. That's fine. That's good enough.
Okay.
Maybe it's Ecamm. I have no idea, folks. I thought it was definitely the restart, or me leaving the computer on at night. But
well, I what I think you should do, and I know. Well, first of all, you and I have agreed. Ecamm will get to the root of the problem. Your internet.
No, they try. They try.
Well, they try. But that's another thing that in the broken government thing and broken business thing, a lot of places, you spend 35 minutes and then you get to somebody, and I know I'm getting old and I don't probably hear as well as I used to, but I can't understand them, et cetera, et cetera. So. On demand, since again this has been another weird show, based on the question, I am going to break rule if you're okay with it, because it is your show, and I am going to do some self-promotion here, because somebody said, what podcast? So before I do that though, Brian, I would ask your permission, but we could stay on topic. Is there anything else you want to address? Or you just want to kind of hang there?
No, I'm good. I just there was I think everybody knows about Matt Gaetz and the underage person. We'll see what happens. With
why don't you tell people? Just sum us up.
Well, it looks like there's a corroborating witness,
right,
to what was said between Joel Greenberg and Matt Gaetz. And I certainly have no doubt this guy's guilty, even though it's not good to do that kind of thing. But it looks like he's sweating it out right now at the very least, but he'll probably get away with it too.
Well, here you really want me to? He either will or he won't, right? And I think the nice thing is, I was talking about that evil.
And
just
apparently
earlier.
She thinks that Avenatti asked her something about. Do you believe you can speak to the dead or something?
Yeah,
like
well,
that?
the backstory on that, I am kind of a Stormy Daniels expert, I guess.
If anybody knows Stormy Daniels, it would be you.
Well, short story is, she was a porn star. Okay, that we know. And then, of course, burst into the American consciousness because of having sex and being paid off by Donald Trump.
Which did nothing to stop him.
Well, that was my point. And then this Michael Avenatti, who had a pretty good track record of winning things, right?
Right.
Suddenly appears.
He looked like he was going to be a candidate.
Well, no, I was saying before that. And he was. There were people. Oh, we need Avenatti.
I know. That's what I was thinking. We need Avenatti.
Don't get Joe Biden. I don't know. And then come to find out, he's ripped off every client
Same with
he's ever
Cuomo.
had. And there you are. It's good. A good
because we're
analogy.
searching for somebody who's tough.
Well, yeah, but the problem becomes they have to be good too, Brian.
Right. And
that's
naive
a rare.
about those
That's a rare
fellows.
combination. If you really want me to go out on a limb, I'll say Stormy Daniels is tougher than all of them. But can you really see a porn star being president? Well, but anyway, back to the trial just real quickly. So the trial is basically Stormy Daniels accused her attorney, Michael Avenatti, of actually falsifying and forging her name on documents that routed money from her book to him. And see, Kim. And so what happens is she, in the interim, she stayed at a place down in New Orleans. Of course, allegedly New Orleans is the home of the haunts, right? And she feels she had an episode there that made her aware that there are spirits in the world, and she now feels that she's a medium. And
can I make a public announcement that I have never knowingly had any contact with the dead, nor have I heard anything from the dead?
You've never listened to the Grateful Dead?
Okay.
You've never watched Night of the Living Dead? Come on. No, of course. But yeah, there are people that believe that, and I want to refute that. You did have it. I was with you, but we won't go into that story.
Right. We won't go into
Okay.
it.
So anyway, to end the story, since it was up there, the idea of it is, I think the object lesson here is be careful whose bandwagon you jump on, because Avenatti was not the guy. In
He was not the guy. I really thought he was.
Avenatti
and
might
he wasn't.
be. He was a lot closer to Donald Trump than he is Joe Biden. And so my last comment on this was, I think, again, while I have my differences with Joe Biden, he was the right choice of everything offered, because he did beat Trump. Now the question becomes governing, and we, the jury's still out on that. Anyway, Brian, if you'll indulge me, I guess, since I was asked, and this will also be for you, and you've been threatening it, so it's to you, and I'll go through the Dave Price, what will be happening in 2022,
Right.
if you're there. Okay, so for quick background, Brian, but I'll say, when I decided to give up education altogether, I gave up teaching in 2011, retired, came here, but friends of mine wanted me to continue, and I did almost 5 years of independent consulting, and then decided I did want to do that, and then thought, well, I'll go back to writing, because I hadn't written full time since I was a journalist, and this led me to saying, well, I just want to write about that. So I actually formed an LLC, for what that's worth, and called it Talking About My Generation. I was going to focus on baby boomers, and that worked out pretty well. I started in 2017. And in the course of doing that, I was able to write and finish my only book, which is available on Kindle. It's called Come Together, and then it goes on. Full title, Come Together, How the Baby Boomers, the Beatles, and a Youth Counterculture Combined to Create the Music of the Woodstock Generation. And I believe it's on the bestseller list on Kindle. I think it's only about 400 billion from the bestseller. While there. But really what I was going to do with that book was I was going to use it because I started to get into lectures and talks in DC. And I like that. And there it is. Brian has a copy. There I am with the Beatles. Hold that up again. People don't realize, Brian, that picture right there. If you look right there, that's me. I was the fifth Beatle.
And by the way, I am in the book.
Brian is in the book. Yes, he is.
That's why I had a personal note given to me.
Nice. But also,
and I am in the book somewhere here.
Yeah, you are.
As is Alan Holdsworth.
So anyway, but what I didn't write it to really, sell it or make it a bestseller. It's not written for that. I was going to use it when I speak to sell a few books, right? And in the interim, I got picked up by, way out of my pay grade, entirely 100% luck. I got picked up by the Smithsonian and delivered some lectures there. And at the same time, I wanted to do tours, so I did 3 years of leading tours at the museum, the former Museum of News and First Amendment here in Washington, D.C. In 2019, the museum closed. That was good. I was going to focus on some other things, had it all set up. And of course, 2020, the pandemic came and changed everything. So during that time, and Brian, you play an integral part in this story also. You got a hold of me and said, do you want to do this podcast or webcast? And I said, absolutely. And I was terrible. You might argue that I'm not much better now, but certainly go back and look at those first shows. I was just god awful. As we usually are.
No, it was just
me. I'm just saying, not the show. I'm saying
nascent.
And it was just a new thing, and I had to get used to it. And then I said, you know what? I kind of want to do this, and it's kind of the future. And one thing, as you get older, you say, okay, I'm somewhat limited. I also, in the interim, this year was picked up or added to the Smithsonian tour staff. So I actually designed and was able to give a tour, protest sites in D.C., and that's been pulled now. They're not planning on doing any kind of touring in year 2022. And so I said, well, I'm going to go on and become an online presence. So actually, always biting off more than I can chew. When this thing gets rolled out, and it'll be rolling out in February and March, I've just mentioned quickly, and then the one that I think is the most important, I will spend a little bit of time on. So the first one, I don't know dates yet, but one will be Come Together, same title as the book, The Great Singles of the 60s That Shaped Rock and Roll. And basically what I'll do there is I'll pick one single each week. It'll be just a podcast. That is not a webcast, a podcast. The second is going to be a webcast, and that's that we moved from the 60s to the 70s, and the title of that is To Be a Rock and Not to Roll. Of course, that's a line in Stairway to Heaven, which the classic rock sounds of the 70s. And basically, the idea of the two is, rock, in 1969 at Woodstock, it's in the book, rock and roll kind of, that period ended, and Jimi Hendrix and the Dead and Jefferson Airplane and the Who took music into this new thing that was rock, and now today is called classic rock. The one that is the most important that I'll be spending some time sending out to people this, again, working with a friend, her name is Sarah Lerner. She is a teacher at Mary Stone and Douglas. That was me in one of those. That was me in my '70s band before I was put in prison. No, I was put in prison.
Yes.
You got
You
that
and
picture?
Joey.
That's the picture yeah, that's the picture you have. Anyway, the one that I'm really most proud of, and I think will do the most good. Sarah has formed a group with two other teachers. One is a teacher who was there at Sandy Hook and watched those young kids be killed. And Sarah was there at Mary Stoneham High School and watched 17 of her students and colleagues killed. And they've become very active in the anti-gun movement. And they joined with somebody who's very impressive out of New York City. Her name is Sari Beth Rosenberg, who has become one of the leading voices of teacher activism in the country. They formed a group called Teachers Unify Against Gun Violence. And so I'll be joining Sarah each week to do a podcast on just that. My area of expertise in that will be basically community violence, because there's so much violence, and having lived now in Washington D.C., we just see the violence exploding here, and not all of it is in the schools. Then I have one coming called the Boomer Experience, which is yesterday, today, and tomorrow, just talking about my life. Then I have one that I don't even know how that one's going to turn out, just called Price Points, things I think need to be said, and that one will be personal, as it says. And then one that relates to this show very much, Democracy in Danger, which side are you on? And what I want to do there, Brian, is not very, this show takes the priority, but sometimes I think that I just kind of ramble and stumble. I want to take one thing and maybe go into depth. Like tonight, maybe I would have done a much better job, say, on Joe Rogan and Neil Young and that will also be a webcast. I've got the YouTube station ready to go. And so anyway, whether they'll be successful or not, only time will tell. But what is fun about it being retired is I looked at all the things that are important to me and said, okay, let's just do them. And so certainly the music thing isn't going to change anybody's life, nor should it, but that's a part of me. The gun violence and democracy in this program allows me to be the activist that I like to be. The Boomer Experience allows me to relive my life and show people what it was like. And then Price Points is also a second one there, and the one that I'm really toying with, but I don't know how successful it would be. I'm tentatively calling Go Ask Grandpa, tackling the big questions of life. And that'll be fun because I don't have any answers, but and some of those, Brian, I'll have guests, and of course you're always welcome to join, because then you can make fun of me like I do when my system crashes. So that's it for me for tonight. So shameless self-promotion. I apologize for that for anybody who got offended, but the question was asked. So that's Dave Price in 2022, and we'll see how it works out. But in the interim with 2022, we all have to work. We said it, I say it, and I think I'll maybe conclude not with some version of this. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think I'm overstating this. We are in a civil war.
Yes.
It's unlike any civil war.
In all seriousness, we are in a civil war.
I say we're in a civil war. And it's different. Anybody who needs some convincing, text me, let me know. I've been reading, there's about 5 books out now, because everybody was hesitating to say that. And now the best minds in the country, whether it's Robert Reich or authors or historians, they're saying, yes, we're here. And the unfortunate thing about it is nobody has any expertise on fighting it, because America, first of all, has never been involved in such a civil war. Because we've actually had 2 civil wars. One, people overlook, but the American Revolution was a civil war. We broke from England, so it was the same. It was just they were coming from England and important Hessians over here, and we were fighting them. And of course, the American Civil War. And but we are there. And so that's why, I said a democracy in danger, which I think it is. Divided we stand, which I think it is, your name and your show. And in Democracy in Danger, I ask a question: which side are you on? And I think the days you've said all along, very forcefully about fence sitting, and I always thought, well, that's kind of okay. It's kind of no, it's not. No, it's not.
Right, I give a shit. I mean, I don't want to go with Carl and say I don't. I'd rather go down the hard way than
Well,
give
and I
up.
think you have to. Anybody is kind of not only has their head in the sand, they're delusional if they think they can sit this one out and it won't affect them. Trev, good definition. Politics is a war. I think what's happened in this one, and it's funny we use the word civil war, because all the civility from speaking is gone. You know what I mean? Like they bring out the worst in us, we bring out the worst in them, and it's just the way that it is. And you can go back and listen to some really eloquent fights on the House floor, the Senate floor, with some very flowery language. So Trev's right. I mean, it was always there, but it's kind of couched or disguised or downplayed. And tying that in, I think we'll end. I was talking about Stephen Breyer tonight and Joe Biden, and I think both of them valuable. But Breyer, I don't know if I didn't read his book, but I saw it. He came out this year. And basically, he said the biggest danger to the court is politicizing the court, because that would take away its legitimacy, and that's a ship that has sailed, right? So I think Breyer was looking to a past, and I think Joe Biden also was looking to a past that ship has sailed when he thought not he egotistically, but he really thought that bipartisanship could be achieved. And anyone with any sense knows a bipartisan country is in better shape than a country that is divided the way we are. But that is the reality. We are divided. We have to pick a stand, and we have to work against the other side if we believe they, as I do, and I can't speak for anyone else. I believe the Republicans. It's just not a party thing. It's just not a philosophical thing. They are a threat to democracy as it stands. Thank you.
All right, Dave. Thank you very much. We appreciate it, and everybody appreciates it. And good luck with your podcast. Let's hope it works.
Well, and of course, unlike you, I won't for any of the activism, but I'll be charging people shitloads of money to listen to me and be bored. But that's okay if they'll pay it. The other option was, Brian, and I think you would agree this is a better way to make some money. I had two other options. One is from watching anybody who out there who's watched Ozark. I'm binging that now. I've wanted to watch it for years. And basically, it's a family that money launders for the Mexican drug cartel. So I could do that, I suppose. And then another one that I highly recommend on HBO, if you have HBO, called The Righteous Gemstones. And that is about fake Southern preachers. It stars the great John Goodman and Kevin McBride and some other really cool people. And so, it was really down to one of three things. Either become a fake preacher, become a money launderer for drugs, or try to make a little bit of legit cash with podcasting. So for now, I'm going with the legit money. Bye, Brian.
Okay,
night,
Dave.
Night.
It's great to see you. And for the rest of you, I want to just say a few things as we leave here. Let me see if I can get the screen correct. No, something like this. More space. First of all, again, thanks to everybody. I know this isn't a big show. There's, maybe any one time, 20 at the most watching. And those of you who are staying here to the end, really appreciate it. But I was really thinking, about this idea that Carlin put out there. Now, I do give a shit. But, there's so many things that we have to deal with. Everything from Trump to our own, personal things we have to deal with, aging. There's so many things that we have to be confronted with and deal with that, can drive you nuts and out of this place. So I just want to say, not in any maudlin way or anything like that, I want to really say that Dave and I, and I'm going to speak for Dave, we really, really thank you, because this is it. I mean, because I don't really have the ego thing, I'm not looking for this thing to become really, really big or anything like that, and it won't. But having you folks because we're kind of the same. We really are in a certain way. I mean, we may differ slightly on this person and that, but at least what I think I'm getting from you guys, you're hardworking people, you're decent people, good people. You know what I mean? And this is it. This is it. It's this small connection with the universe. And I'm not a spiritual guy. However, it's kind of amazing that you have this, unbelievably large universe, and there may be more than one. Who knows? I don't really care. But the fact that in this short life we see each other and we commiserate, and it may be from, across the country or across the world, it's at least nice to know you've got somebody who knows how you feel, and that would be you folks. We're just facilitating this thing, whatever you want to call it, but it has a cathartic effect, because nothing's easy, folks. So thank you, everybody. I see I keep Jacob, Evil Yoda. Yeah, you guys are great. You really are. I mean, I'm not just saying it, you are. I mean, it's 9 people. I don't care. It's just, in these days, you need to be able to commiserate, because it's brutal out there. I have no answers for anybody. Not for you, not for myself, nothing. So if you come here for answers, this is the last place you got to go to. You don't get it from me. But we can be that band on this Titanic. So, Dave, I know you might want to say something, so I'll just...
No, Brian, I think you said everything that needs to be said.
Okay, that's good, Dave. Anyway, Dave, thank you. I'm going to send us out of here in a very traditional route. No films, no movies, because we've been on and off today. And thank you. We'll be back next week, I think. And if we aren't,
when our guest may or may not be Stormy Daniels.
Well, I will say this. Next week we will not have Richard Gere on. We will not have Kamala Harris. We will not have a lot of people on next week, but we'd like to.
But we could have any week Stormy Daniels, right?
That's right, because Stormy lives in that guy's brain. Yeah. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Trev. Yeah. I know we're throwing bouquets to each other here, but thanks. Really. Thanks. All right, Dave. I'll see you next week or on the phone during the week. Breathe. Breathe.